Hey, what's going on? Welcome back. It's Jack. Still playing some Buzzword. Um, Again, Buzzword tries to recreate the toss-ups of Quiz Bowl, where the clues are long and they start out with clues that are more obscure and become more and more well-known as the question goes on. When you buzz in and answer correctly, you get points based on how early you buzzed in. These questions are at level C, which is the second hardest available in Buzzword. And given my experience in the past, this is where the wheels kind of start to fall off for me. Um, I'm definitely more rusty. I'm definitely more rusty with academic things than I have been back when in my college days, when most of the questions I played were academic. I was much better, but now I mostly play pop culture stuff and just kind of wade into these academic ones because I feel like I should probably play them to be a better trivia player in general. um, so this could be a one where I only actually know like 75% of them, which is a little which is much lower than previous things I've done. But let's find out. I think I do okay. Usually they're good questions. So with these practice questions, they have been used in the real world, and they were released in 2019. So current events are going to be related to 2019 current events, and a lot of there may be some recency stuff that was 3 years ago. But let's find out. Question one.
Pencil and paper ready.
Oh no.
Kumiko needs to know how many games will be played in a league with 15 teams,
Okay.
given that the league uses a round-robin schedule, in which each team plays every other team exactly once. By realizing that since a team cannot play itself, each team has only 14 opponents, and that every game involves 2 teams, she is able to compute for 10 points what number of games played.
Total. So 7. It's 7 times 14, which is 98. Okay. Yeah. Also, they do some math ones in here. Uh, I'm not going to do good on the computational math ones. I'm going to lay that out.
This city's waterfront contains a science museum called the Museum of Tomorrow, which occupies a building designed by Santiago Calatrava. More than 90% of the holdings at a national museum in this city were destroyed in a 2018 fire. Many of its slums, known as favelas, were demolished.
They said favelas, and when you say favelas, that means Rio de Janeiro. You see, like I said, they had a current events question related to something that happened in 2018. A lot has happened since 2018.
This historical event is referenced in the title of a 1970 book by D. Brown. It may have begun after a deaf man accidentally discharged a weapon during a struggle with James Forsyth's troops.
I think this is going to be the Boston Massacre. Oh, Wounded Knee. Okay. I was right in thinking that it was a massacre. Yeah, I didn't know. Didn't have knowledge of the D Brown thing to get me close to Wounded Knee at that point. So I mean, I felt like a fine buzz. It was a fine buzz there, but ended up being wrong.
A town called Zoar becomes a place of refuge
Zoar.
after being exempted from this event, which occurs because 2 angels are unable to find 10 righteous men. Genesis 19 uses the phrase fire and brimstone while describing.
Is it just Armageddon? Okay. Yep. So it's a more localized destruction. Uh, yeah. Have I got one right? No, I got Rio. I got Rio right. So I got some ground to make up on my 75% one.
This man called the first film he directed a documentary after the film was controversially nominated for a musical or comedy Golden Globe. Monkey Paw Productions.
Oh, it's Jordan Peele. Cause yeah, Get Out. Get Out got nominated for best drama or best musical or comedy. Get Out is not anywhere near a musical or a comedy. But him calling it a documentary is pretty good. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So Jordan Peele has since, I think Us came out before. I think Us came out in 2019, so they probably are going to mention Us later. Nope came out this year. So I mentioned this in a question I wrote where, so he's directed 3 movies, and the average length of his titles are four letters long. Because Get Out, Us, and Nope is 12 letters total.
This man ordered a Naiman minister named Tata Tonga to craft a writing
Naiman?
system for this man's language. During his rise to
This
power,
man's language.
this man captured his traitorous childhood friend Jamuka, who had helped him defeat the Merkit tribe. 6 years after absorbing the Khwarazm Empire, this man died, prompting a Kurultai that selected Ogadai as his successor. For 10 points, name this conqueror who unified the Mongol Empire.
Okay. I was thinking about the wrong continent for much of that question. I was trying to think of it going to be Shaka Zulu. Because I wasn't able to parse that those were Mongolian names instead of African names.
This author used the offstage beat of a drum to indicate that rebels are getting closer, in a drama about a former train porter who becomes the ruler of an island in the West Indies. In another play by this author, a tuberculosis sufferer named Edmund tries to comfort his mother, the morphine addict Mary Tyrone. For 10 points, what Irish-American author wrote The Emperor Jones and Long Day's Journey into Night?
Yeah, I've read The Emperor Jones. That was so long ago. What did I read? And yeah, I don't know actually. I don't actually know anything about Long Day's Journey Tonight until he just asked me who wrote it. God, what did I read The Emperor Jones for? What would have been my history of Africa class? What did I read it for? Huh. I know I read it at some point. Don't know why. Huh. Anyway.
In 2019, hundreds of election workers in this country supposedly died of fatigue after counting ballots by hand. The ideology of this country's Democratic Party of Struggle is based on the philosophy of Pankasila. A 2014 boost in the value of this country's currency, the rupiah, was attributed to the Jokowi effect. For 10 points, Joko Widodo recently announced that what country will move its capital away from Jakarta?
Yeah, that was a whole bunch of. That was that was a 3 years later current events question. So don't have much to go on until you say Jakarta.
When this quantity for a mixture is greater than it is in the mixture's components, the mixture is a negative azeotrope. The product of the
this was a super early buzz, but it may pay off. Boiling Point. Yep. Yeah, that was way too early. I should have waited. Felt a little, feeling a little, was a little saucy with that buzz, and I definitely should have waited.
This author wrote that the ills of a scholar's life include toil, envy, want, the patron, and the jail, in an imitation of Juvenal's 10th satire titled The Vanity of Human Wishes. He commented on his approach to orthography and pronunciation in the preface to his 1755 reference work, A Dictionary of the English Language.
Oh,
For 10 points, what?
Sam Johnson? Okay. Not gonna lie, I spaced out during that first clue. I was I just completely spaced out, and then they talked about a dictionary or 18th century dictionary, and Sam Johnson's gonna be the one that wrote that.
Ron Carter, Tony Williams, and Herbie Hancock
Uh-huh.
formed the rhythm section of this musician's second great quintet. This musician recorded a standard by Thelonious Monk as the first track on his album, Round About Midnight.
Oh,
He
who was Round About
pioneered
Midnight?
modal jazz on tracks such as Blue and Green, Freddie Freeloader, and So What for a 1959 album. For 10 points, name this jazz trumpeter who recorded Kind of Blue.
Okay, so it was Davis. It was Miles Davis the whole time. I was thinking that they were probably going to go for somebody deep or somebody deeper than that. I was thinking about like Thelonious Monk. Wasn't Brubeck. Yeah. So it's just, if you could have narrowed it down about who they're actually going to ask, you could probably have guessed Davis early, or you could have operated on knowledge, but that was knowledge I didn't have.
A Sigmund Freud paper titled Analysis of This General Condition in a 5-Year-Old Boy is a case study of little Hans.
Oh, what's
The
little
specific
Hans?
type of this condition is often treated with exposure therapy.
I think it's phobias. Yeah, because little Hans, I think they actually instilled a phobia in little Hans, which is not cool. Yeah, they weren't studying. They instilled phobia in the kid because they gave him like fluffy white things to play with, and then whenever he touched the fluffy white thing, they would make a really loud, scary noise. And then they tested him later on, and he became terrified of fluffy white things. Who would have thought?
According to Euripides, this man used one of 3 wishes granted by Poseidon to kill his own son. Castor and Pollux kidnapped this man's mother, Aethra, as revenge for his abduction of Helen. Aphrodite made this man's second wife.
Hector stole Theseus. When did Theseus steal Hector or steal Helen? Also, Hector didn't actually steal. Hector didn't steal. I was wrong anyway, because Hector didn't steal um, Helen of Troy. Paris did from Agamemnon. Yeah, I should have let that one play out.
This mathematician devised the calculus technique of adequality, a theorem stating that for an integer a and a prime p, a to the p minus a is a multiple of p, is known as this mathematician's little theorem.
Yeah. No, don't give me that one. I changed it. I thought it was wrong, and then I changed it. I thought changed the O in Vermont or the A in Vermont to an O, and then switch it back. They'll give me that one. But yeah. So Fermat has a famous last theorem, but he also has a little theorem.
This country sent thousands of troops to support the MPLA against South Africa in the Angolan Civil War. The special period was a lean economic time in this country after the fall of the Soviet Union. The July 26th movement in this country led to the 1959 movement? Toppling of a mafia-friendly dictator named Fulgencio Batista.
Oh, this is Cuba. July 26th is obviously Cuba. Yeah. I have Fulgencio Batista, and it's really obvious, but I don't know. I was thinking it was actually an African country for a while there, and then But like the Soviets weren't huge in Africa, from what I remember. I could be wrong.
The image of this city's abandoned Battersea Power Station has been featured
Oh,
in
what's the
multiple movies and
Battersea?
album covers, including the 1977 Pink Floyd album Animals. Italian
Yeah,
architect Renzo Piano designed this city's tallest building, which is known as the Shard. The
it's London then. Yeah, the Shard is in London. Yeah, I think it's still. I think the Shard still is the tallest building because there's the Gherkin as well, but I don't think that's taller than it. It just looks weird. Well, it just looks like a pickle if we're being PG about it.
Willem de Sitter and this man created a simple model of the universe with zero curvature and zero cosmological constant. This man said his biggest blunder was allowing his initial belief in a static universe to lead him to introduce the cosmological constant. He won the 1921 Physics Nobel for explaining the photoelectric.
Uh, yeah. There's so much to know about Einstein, and winning a Nobel for the photoelectric effect is what was the first thing that I knew about Einstein in that clue.
At the start of this play, a young man shouts in his sleep about chariots and horses to the dismay of an indebted father. This play describes an experiment to determine how far a flea has jumped. In order to learn
Oh,
the techniques of sophistry, Strepsiades enrolls at the thinkery of Socrates in this example of old comedy. Aristophanes wrote, for 10 points, what
um,
play, named after goddesses who outpour dew and rain?
the cloud. I think it's the cloud. The goddesses, though. I don't know, that doesn't feel right. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to think. I didn't think of any other Aristophanes things that were titled after goddesses. So I guess it's metaphorical. Well, say what you will about metaphorical goddesses.
During this war, Robert Ram's Soldier's Catechism was issued to cavalry troopers of the Ironside Regiment. At a key battle in this war, the forces of Prince Rupert of the Rhine were defeated at Marsden Moor. The opposing sides in this conflict were nicknamed the Roundheads and Cavaliers. King Charles I was executed as a result of this 1640s war. For 10 points,
1640s.
what war led to the rise of Oliver Cromwell?
I don't really know what's going on. Okay. Yeah, I thought it was a civil war, but I thought there were some French names in there, and so I thought it was one of the English and French wars, and it was not that.
In 2019, researchers documented this animal's type D, which has a round head, a relatively smaller white eye patch, and a pointy dorsal fin. This toothed cetacean is the largest species of dolphin. One of these
What's
animals, named Tilikum,
okay? Yeah, you forget that the killer whales, are actually dolphins, or orcas is the I think is the preferred name for them now. Uh, Toothed cetaceans. It's my new band name.
this number is the last digit of Graham's number. Two of us in the churchyard lie, according to a William Wordsworth poem titled We Are This Number. The smith and the stranger are gods in a religion centered on this number, from George R. R.
Oh, it's 9 then. 7. Oh yeah, it's the 7. Yeah, I'm not the biggest Game of Thrones fan, but I really thought it was the 9. But it's the 7. It is the 7. Yep, I just remembered it wrong. Oh well.
These laws led to the prosecution of James Thomson Callender, the Scottish born author of The Prospect Before Us. One of these laws
Loss.
briefly raised the citizenship residency requirement from 5 years to 14, and was attacked as a Federalist power grab. Any non-citizen deemed to endanger peace and safety could be summarily deported under.
Oh, I guess we need sedition in there too. I probably should have just. I probably should have just thrown that in there, but they really seemed to only be talking about the alien part of it for the alien and sedition acts. Oh well, that was probably a mistake on my part.
An artist from this movement mixed copper metallic pigment with his own urine for his oxidation painting. Another artist of this movement showed a woman who says she would rather sink than call Brad for help in a
this is pop art. Because that's no, it's not Kandinsky. Lichtenstein. Roy Lichtenstein. This is the guy who made the big panels that look like comic book panels. So those would be pop art. I love it in these questions. You can hear the derision in the reader's voice.
This profession is the subject of a 2019 book by Jill Abramson, whose title calls these people merchants. This profession is overseen by the watchdog group FAIR. A member of this profession wrote the 2018 bestseller Fear, whose cover contains a red-tinted photograph of Donald Trump. Christian Amanpour.
Oh, it's just journalists. Okay. Yeah. I thought for a while it may have been, when they started talking about the book, I thought it may have been like politician, because like Hillary Clinton wrote a book, or a detective book, or is it Bill Clinton wrote a detective book, a detective novel, or worked with somebody to write a detective novel? So I thought it may have been referring to that, but then you hang out enough and they say Christian Amanpour.
Near the start of this period, Fu Rong died at the Battle of Xiaoting. The northern and southern expeditions of Zhuge Liang took place during this period, which ended with the conquest of Wu by Jin.
All right, they'll probably give me that. I said the magic words. I said 3 kingdoms. You can give me some points. I mean, I was just operating off of Chinese periods, because it wasn't going to be a dynasty in there. And warring states is Japan. I guess there's probably a time that the 3 kingdoms period includes. There wasn't wars going on. But there definitely was a war of the 3 kingdoms.
In 2018, a street in this city was renamed to remove a reference to the racist Yawkey family.
They said Yawkey. The Yankees are the longtime owners of the Boston Red Sox. Second, again talking, because in the other one, spoilers for the other one that I did, where they talked about racist Boston fans.
Pencil and paper ready.
Oh no!
A play has 6 roles that are not distinguishable from each other.
Sure.
And the director needs to know how many different combinations of actors can fill those roles, 6. Given that there are only 7 actors auditioning.
Okay, so
by realizing that any of the auditionees could be the one left out, he is able to compute, for 10 points, what number of combinations when choosing 6 actors from a pool of 7 candidates.
So it's 42... Oh, what? Oh, because the individual roles don't matter. I thought it was a permutation, not a combination. But they said combination. I was trying to do math when they said combination, so I was thinking of permutations. I was still wrong about the number of permutations. But, math getting in my head.
This author described a 2-foot-high idea that emerges from a painting based on Mozart's Don Giovanni in the novel Killing Commendatore. In another of his novels, Janacek's Sinfonietta plays in a taxi before Aomame enters a world with 2 moons. Toru cooks pasta while listening to Rossini's The Thieving Magpie in a 1995 novel by this man. For 10 points, what Japanese author wrote
No.
1Q84 and The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle?
Murakami. Murakami's a better answer than Ishiguro there. They didn't say any Beatles songs, so how was I supposed to know it was Murakami?
This city's Art Deco merchandise mart was once the world's largest building. The cover of the Wilco album Yankee Hotel Foxtrot depicts the Marina City Towers in this metropolis. The eastern terminus of the historic Route 66 was in this city. Its tallest building, which houses the headquarters of United Airlines, is now named for the Willis Group.
Oh. I thought Route 66 went further east than that. Huh. Oh, of course Wilco has. Yeah, I could have figured that out from Wilco because they're Chicago. They're very much Chicago based. I think maybe I couldn't get that. But the last part there they started getting into the Sears Tower and Willis Tower stuff.
This website lost an advertising deal with Farmers Insurance after posting articles critical of auto-playing ads. Megan Greenwell resigned from this website, citing dysfunction caused by owners GO Media. In 2019, all of its writers, including Jamboree columnist Drew Margary, left.
Texas can want Gawker. Gawker still existed in 2018. That was Deadspin. Yeah, I should have sat on there. Sadly, I think I knew it was in the Gawker group, but I think Gawker was actually dead by that point, so it would have been one of the sports ones. Oh well. Sadly, I think Drew McGarry passed away recently after a long illness. He was one of the best parts of Deadspin for a long time.
In the simple Gaussian approach to this field of science, the paraxial approximation holds non-ideal equipment in this field of science can cause distortions called aberrations, which include coma and defocus. In this field's geometrical form, rays are assumed to travel on straight lines.
That's just optics. I was overthinking that so hard. I might be getting a little tired. But it's like, oh, aberrations. Yeah, so like when you use a telescope, there's aberrations. So do they want like telescoptery or just optics? Optics is the easy answer.
In a game from this series, ant and dragonfly motifs are associated with the twins Alexia and Alfred Ashford.
Resident Evil. Give me my 24 video games. Yeah, the Ashfords they started showing up in the Code Veronica series, or the Code Veronica part of Resident Evil, which I've never played. I think I've only played numbered versions. And then I think I only actually started playing Resident Evils at 4. I played a little bit of 5, didn't beat 5, didn't play 6 at all, didn't play 7 at all. But then I played 8. And I still know a fair amount about Resident Evil.
This character reflects that it is better to sleep with a sober cannibal than a drunken Christian in deciding to share a bed with a man at the Spouter.
Hey. Spoilers again. Sometimes you get things primed up because I talked about this in the other video about Moby Dick that Ishmael and Queequeg share a bed in the first chapter of Moby Dick. It's some funny overlap.
A monatomic ideal gas has this many degrees of freedom, which is why a molecule of such a gas has a kinetic energy of this number divided by 2 times Boltzmann's constant times temperature. This number is given to the law of thermodynamics, stating that a perfect crystal approaches zero entropy as the crystal approaches absolute zero. For 10 points, what is the number of spatial dimensions in which a...
I was pretty sure on 3, but I wanted to hear more. because it could be six degrees of motion, because if this way and this way are actually different directions, but I think it's just the 4 degrees of freedom. And then there's 3 laws of thermodynamics for the most part. Well, there's 4 if you include the zeroth, but the zeroth isn't actually part of the original ones. So it's going to be 3, and perfect crystals have 0 entropy. Is very much a third law thing. So I could have got some more points out of that.
This state contains an unfinished sculpture designed by Korczak Ziolkowski, which depicts a man who symbolically points to ancestral territory. Another sculpture in this state.
I think it's South Dakota. I think they're talking about yeah. What's the name of the statue? I can picture it. Oh, why can't I remember the name of it? It's not Sitting Bull. Crazy Horse. Crazy Horse. Yeah, it's talking about the Crazy Horse monument in South Dakota.
Late in its history, this country experienced the Peaceful Revolution during a period known as the Turn. 2 families illegally departed this country via hot air balloon in 1979. This country's leaders, such as Walter Ulbricht and Erich Honecker.
Okay. Now we're just getting straight up overlap between between things. Spoilers for the other one, I guess. Oh yeah, Honecker in East Germany.
This poem describes the horror of the shade that looms beyond a place of wrath and tears. The bludgeonings of chance have left this poem's speaker bloody but unbowed. This poem was written in the aftermath of a surgery that saved the leg of its author. William Ernest Henley declared, "I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul," in, for 10 points, what poem, whose Latin title means unconquered?
Oh, yeah, what is this? Oh. Invictus. Yeah. Yeah, that's something. That's something that I've just never really latched onto. There's some trivia things that you just can't absorb, it seems, and that's Invictus has been one of those for me.
Due to precession, the point of the autumnal equinox now lies in this constellation. Its brightest star can be found using the mnemonic Arc to Arcturus and speed onto it. The local group is found in the Laniakea supercluster, within a supercluster named for this largest zodiac constellation.
What's the
Spica is the alpha star of, for 10 points, what constellation that represents a maiden?
Virgo. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, Andromeda's not a constellation at all. That was like the worst thing I could put down. All right, yeah, Virgo.
This politician's father was governor of Michigan at the time of the 1967 Detroit riot. During a presidential campaign, this man said that 47% of Americans lack personal responsibility. This man's niece, RNC Chair Ronna McDaniel, supposedly stopped using her maiden name due to this man's criticisms of Donald Trump. For 10 points, what Republican who lost the 2012 presidential election is now a senator?
That's Romney.
This author recalled a youthful visit to Mrs. Prothero's garden where he tried to pelt cats with snowballs in a prose piece that he read aloud on a 1952 album.
Snowballs.
He wrote about wise men whose words have forked no lightning and who know that dark is right, in a poem that urges a father to rage against death. For 10 points, what author wrote A Child's Christmas in Wales and Do Not Go Gentle into the...
Yeah, it's Dylan Thomas. Yeah, Do Not Go Gentle into that good night. He was alive in 1950? I thought he was like an 18th century dude. Yeah, I guess that was something that I've always misconstrued about Dylan Thomas.
A September 2019 explosion in this country caused a fire at one of the world's two smallpox storage centers.
Oh no.
The previous month, this country's tests of a missile nicknamed Skyfall may have caused a radiation incident. This country has about 6,500 active nuclear warheads. In October 2019, one of its submarines test launched a missile from the White Sea. For 10 points.
Okay. Yeah, I was kind of thinking it may have been maybe like North Korea or something like that. But again, like yeah, I've kept harping on it, but 2018 current events is not like that was just a list of things that happened in Russia in 2018, and that was a long time ago.
This landmark is known to locals as Abu al-Hol, the father of terror.
Nice.
A king was legendarily ordered to uncover this monument, according to the Dream Stele at its base. Damage to this monument's face has variously been attributed to iconoclasm, Mamluks, or the cannons of Napoleon.
It's gonna be the Sphinx. The Sphinx. The Sphinx. Yeah, the Great Sphinx of Giza. They had this the urban legend that Napoleon shot the nose off the Sphinx's practice.
This composer conducted his own Marche Solennelle at the first ever concert in Carnegie Hall.
Oh.
French horns play a descending F, D flat, C, B flat motif to open this composer's Piano Concerto No. 1 in B flat minor. This composer quoted the anthem God Save the Tsar in an orchestral piece that calls for several cannons to be fired during its climax. For 10 points, name this Russian composer of the 1812 overture.
No, this is just not here right now. Oh, it's Tchaikovsky again. God, yeah. Tchaikovsky's done so much stuff. I don't know. I thought it wouldn't be that again, but there's been a lot of overlap here.
This pathogen's virulence is lower in people with high levels of ApoBec3G protein, who are called elite controllers. Maraviroc is used to prevent the entry of this virus, which was first treated with an NRTI known as azithromycin, or AZT. CD4 count is used to monitor infection by this virus. It employs reverse transcriptase to replicate in T cells.
It's just HIV? Okay, yeah. Yeah, they're talking with all the talk about various treatment of it. Yeah, it was probably going to be HIV. I was thinking it might have been something a little more what's the word I want to use here? More airborne, like Ebola, or may have just been the flu.
Two of these beings, named Rakib and Atid, are collectively known as the Kiraman Katibin. The word Nur refers to the light from which these beings were created. They are called Maluk in Arabic. The 6 Islamic articles of faith include belief in the prophets and belief in these beings, one of whom visited Muhammad.
Just angels? Huh. That was a whole question about Islamic angels, I guess. Interesting.
In one episode of this show, characters go to the Hayden Planetarium after seeing a computer error code of 1.61. In its first episode, the host of a podcast called The Millennial Prophet saves the life of a doctor about to commit suicide.
Oh.
The main character on this show is Miles, the atheist son of a priest.
It's the
For 10 points, name this CBS show in which a supposedly divine being sends recommendations via Facebook.
Yeah. It's God Friended Me. I spent that whole time just thinking what the name of that dumb show was. And it's like God did something. God emailed me God God sent me an email, something like that. I just needed that whole time to remember what the actual name of the show was.
A site now called Stingray Point marks the place where this explorer was stung by a stingray in 1608, the same year that he tried to find a route from Chesapeake Bay to the Pacific. This man coined the term New England. He wrote that his brains were on the point of being beaten out when he was shielded by Powhatan's daughter.
It's John Smith. It's the character voiced by Mel Gibson in Disney's Pocahontas. And I had no idea he tried to sail to the Pacific from Chesapeake Bay, though.
A pathological function named for Carl Weierstrass is notable because this operation can't be performed on it. If this operation can be done infinitely often to a function, the function is called smooth. The chain rule.
Oh, differentiation? It's not derivation? Huh. They're talking about calculus stuff, so I just kind of assume they're talking about derivation, which is part of the chain rule, isn't it? Yeah, they already reviewed it. All right. Like I said, I think I did. I think I did a little better than 75%. I guess we can just go to the game summary and see. I did not. I think there was two though that they're going to give me. They'll give me on review. But yeah, like I said, these are rough, especially if you're out of practice for academic stuff. But that's it for this week one. If you want to play, you can head to naqt.com/buzzword and check out the games that are running. Until next time, we'll see you. Bye.